Bengals taking on the Broncos. We'll talk about this coming up next on the Wincinnati podcast.
It's an exciting time to be a Bengals fan.
Welcome to the Wincinnati podcast. I am Ace. He is Zim. What you got there, partner? Is that a broom?
I've been sweeping, bro. Browns came to town. I couldn't figure out why my toilets was clogged up in my house the whole week. It's nothing but dookie stains all over the place. They're talking crazy to us. They never won no division. Never did nothing. 30 years. Never had a Joey B. So I had to get the broom and sweep them up out of here, and then we could get them 3-12 bumps out of our peripheral, out of our view, and we could look forward to the Broncos like you just said.
For sure, man. We're going to talk about Bengals winning 4 out of the last 5. We'll talk about what the playoff picture looks like right now. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow being the cornerstones. We'll talk about them. They got picked as captains. We'll get into that. We'll also break down what the defense looks like moving forward. They had a pretty impressive day Sunday against the Browns. We'll talk about what the coaching looks like, who goes, who stays. And, of course, we got to talk about a little bit about the Broncos. So we'll have all of that coming up next.
Hey, what's up, Bengals fans? Mike Hilton. I'm on the Wincinnati pod with Ace and Zim.
4 out of the last 5 against this team that thought that they said that they own Joe Burrow. What is this narrative now? Because now it's the Bengals are winning 4 out of the last 5. If you talk to them today, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, well, if you guys didn't look like the Baltimore Ravens against DTR, then what does it matter? We don't care about these games and all of that. It's a far cry from what it used to be. What are your thoughts on 4 out of the last 5, a dominant Bengals win here, 24-6? Could have been even uglier than that, but a dominant display by the Bengals sweeping the Browns this season.
In the evaluation process that we started, a couple of weeks ago when we felt like we were pretty much out of it, still low-key, like very, very small chance. I thought you're starting to see what we were saying all along as far as, like, let's see what we got in some of these players. Let's see who establishes themselves. And I thought, I like to see them against a better opponent. I like to see them against lesser than. The common denominator for, like, every single football game that I've ever watched is that when players are there to be made, do the players make those plays? And you saw all day on Sunday, you saw instances of Jordan Battles of the world. As we're going to talk about the coaching later on, Jordan Battles of the world, Andre Yoshivas's of the world, catching a dime over top of Denzel Ward's head. You're talking about guys like McKinnley Jackson, Kris Jenkins now stepping up. You're talking about guys like Myles Murphy getting pressure on the edge. All the different things. And I hate to be the woulda, coulda, shoulda guy. I'm not going to do that. But all these young guys that you could see through our draft and all these different the process that we've been through this whole season, it is a good question to say, should we have played these guys earlier when you see them making plays? Now, I get it, lesser than talent. But my argument against that is the Steelers, I thought for the whole entire season, did the best job in the National Football League against beating lesser than opponents. One thing about being a really good football team is beating the people that are in front of you and beating those players. Beating those teams that are in front of you and the ones that have no business being in the same sentence with you, making sure you get them up out of there. And that's the name of the game. And I thought if you can't do that, then you're not a good football team. And I think that's step one. You see the Steelers this past week play a better, more seasoned Ravens team. No rain, none of the conditions, all these, you know what I mean? So they're coming down to earth some, but that's where the Joey B's and the Jamar Chases of the world, I think, in the bigger games, in the T. Higgins, then elevates you, though. I mean, did you? What was your takeaway? I was going to ask you. It's not too much I can say about the Browns because I just think they suck. But Denzel Ward, Njoku, and guys like that, they were there. Do you buy into the plays that Jordan Battle and all these guys that I just named? Do you buy into that, or do you just take that with a bit of grain of salt?
I take it with a slight bit of grain of salt because it is the Browns, it is DTR, but the plays still have to be made, right? Like at the end of the day, I don't want to take away from the defense because this was a great performance by them, right? Geno Stone was able to get an interception, have some big plays. I think they were able to execute. I think Mike Hilton was able to execute. You talk about some of the sacks that he had. I don't think you want to take away from Kris Jenkins, McKinnley Jackson, what they were able to do. So at the end of the day, they showed up and they showed out. And they did what they were supposed to. And, you know, you're talking about DTR, this guy that, I don't know, what, 1 touchdown and like 8 interceptions now, 9 interceptions now for his career. But the one thing that he does have is he's able to run and stuff, right? So they were able to manage that. I think that they were able to stand tall. Like we talk about the first possession where they were able to force the fumble on the 1 yard line. I think you have to say something about that because whether DTR is your quarterback or not, at the end of the day, it was a long drive sparked by that. Well, not a long drive, but it was a drive sparked by that long run. And they were on the 1 yard line. So for the Bengals to be able to hold them in that situation, yeah, that speaks volumes about what they were able to do. You can't really take that with a grain of salt when it's a stop on the 1 yard line. I think anything that they did, like they did what they were supposed to do. This has been a team historically sometimes when you don't have a starter in there or if you do have someone that they're not familiar with, sometimes they do give up plays and stuff like that. And they didn't do that in this one. So, you know, I'm not taking that with a grain of salt because they were able to do what they should have done against a guy like DTR. What about you?
That's how I feel the same way. We don't normally do this if it is in the super chat. I do want to ask this because, excuse me, there were about 3 people that did message me about our bet of the week on BETUS. Now, yeah. Mike, I think, followed us, and I'm going to take the L on this because I was the one that stood on the table for Jerry Jeudy, right? Jerry Jeudy got cooked in this game, clamped up 20 yards, 2 catches. Now, Mike, in the comment section, tell me, we haven't logged into our account. We like count our money like together. Like we have our own little thing that we do. Mike, tell me in the comments where we hit and where we didn't hit. I do want to recap because I feel like the anytime touchdown Yoshi did come up. I thought the T. Higgins anytime touchdown came up. And then the anytime touchdown Jamar Chase. I also took the Chase Brown 66 yards at minus 185.
Yeah, the Chase Brown one definitely hit for sure.
So out of those, I don't know if we parlayed them all together, but I know the single bet.
Yeah, he's saying that we hit on the other ones. It was just that Jerry. See, like, and I'm gonna be honest, that was the first time we ever picked like the other side. So I would just say go with what you guys think on the Bengals side. Like we're undefeated, I think, on the Bengals side. It's just that other side. And I mean, honestly, I don't know why you mad at us. You might need to be mad at DTR because he wasn't even trying to look that man's way.
DTR has no business being in the NFL.
He is not. There were some Bengals fans that wanted DTR a while ago. I'm not gonna say no names, bro. You know who you are. That man was hot garbage. I do not want him touching.
DTR look like
he makes Jake Brown look
first
like
of all, I gotta correct you real quick. I'm not giving bro no cool nickname. His name is Dorian. Dorian, bro, looked like he was running backwards. He was doing all types of stuff. I don't know if the XFL is still going right now, but I think he needs to go right there. Like, for real. I mean, I'll be happy if he's on the Browns, but I know that the Bengals defense played a lot better. Taylor-Britt is another guy for the last – I don't know if y'all know this. For the last 4 weeks, Taylor-Britt is graded out as one of the best cornerbacks in football, too. That's something that's gone under the radar. But I just couldn't see a world where Jeudy doesn't route up a couple people and then I don't think the kid has what it takes to look down the field. I really don't. I think if it's not a gimmick play, I don't think he can run it. I don't, and I can't believe that they would put that product out on the field unless they were flat out tanking for like the number 1, number 2 pick in the NFL.
That's what I think it is, bro. And I think DTR isn't the nickname; it's DTLR because that boy about to be in DTLR, being a manager or something soon because he is
a
not
manager.
NFL football player.
I don't know if bro gonna get out the stock room. Matter of fact, they're just gonna have bro out there just like mandating a line on Jordan release dates or something like that. He's just the person to get the dudes in the correct order so nobody like jumps the line. Other than that, I don't see the future for Dorian in the National Football League, bro.
I don't. So let's move on from the Browns. What does this do for the playoff picture? Because I actually tuned out a little bit from the Titans game because I was watching our game and like I was just like, man, they messed up. Didn't know the Titans came back in that game, almost nearly pulled it off. We talked about the Chargers winning, right? But several things that we needed didn't exactly go our way this week. Really needed the Titans to get that upset against the Colts. But the playoff picture is now more in grasp. What are your thoughts on the playoff picture as it stands right now?
I still feel like it's a long shot. I'm one of the more optimistic fans I think out there, and even with me, for the life of me, the things that we can't control are the ones that I just, you know what I mean? It's hard for me to sell somebody on that. I'm gonna tell you another thing: the fact that the Steelers lost that game too, that last game of the season is not going to be. I feel really confident about the Broncos game. Although I don't know, I've done that throughout this season, and this team has like let me down a bunch of times. And like when they play like some real competition, we're gonna go into that game. I guess later. Oh yeah, later in the week after Christmas or something. That game's on Saturday, so stay tuned to Wincinnati Pod on Twitter. We'll tell you the day that show drops. They will do a bonus show or something tomorrow. I don't know. But I don't know how confident I feel about that one. But I'm gonna tell you, that last week with the Steelers fighting for the actual division, that game is going to be for real. That's going to be a game right there. Like, whereas I'm like, man, we had a chance to beat them. It was 21-21. Burrow, we got the fumble and like, man, we could get them dudes like.
But let me ask you this, not to cut you off, because I'm coming right back to you. Don't you think this Bengals team now on December 23rd is better than that Bengals team December 1st that still had a ball game with the Steelers?
Much better. I still am a little cautious about the linebacker speed where Russell Wilson just took all those checkdowns. I feel like Pratt makes those plays, but seeing him go downhill in this game, Geno Stone coming up and run support, I thought Miles Murphy was good up front. Another guy I thought was Jordan Battle and Mike Hilton. We had a show where I was talking about, we just ain't got no playmakers. That's what playmakers look like. Mike Hilton and Jordan Battle look Pro Bowl level talent. When you watch around the NFL, I watch a lot of full games. That's what it looks like. Making plays, running back goes to diagnose a block, doesn't even have the opportunity to read a block. You can't even read a key block because guys are just shedding off tackles. Pratt was doing the same thing too. I just think that for whatever reason, Steelers do something up front and they block it up with guys that I know are less than. Like, the Steelers are so hard to figure out. They got guys that I know if they play for the Bengals, they would be so trash. Like Roderick Jones, he would be so trash for the Bengals. But for whatever reason, they block it up. Russell Wilson moves around, checks the ball down, and then 20 yards, Jalen Warren. Najee Harris gets it's something weird about what Tomlin does when he motivates them for those games. I know that was a long answer, but that's the answer for that. Yeah. I do feel like we're better. We got answers on the back end now. I will tell you that. I believe in Newton. I love who people do not. I love Marco Wilson. Although he's been getting himself in some penalties and stuff, every single time that all that stuff happens, he's like always right there in the energy and like how he locks up. I don't know how we ended up getting him. I'm so glad we didn't take him over. We didn't take Forbes over him. I'm so glad we didn't on the waiver list. Marco Wilson is the athletic type of guy that in the draft I would love to see them take like swings at the at all across the roster. That's the type of guys I'm looking for. High octane athletes.
Yeah, I think for me, man, the biggest thing that the Steelers have struggled, and I'm surprised you didn't say this because you kind of were early on this one, is George Pickens. I think George Pickens is the biggest X factor for them. And I think if the Bengals face them with George Pickens not being at like the level that he was at when they played him December 1st, like 100% like healthy, I think that that's the key right there because I think you've seen without George Pickens these last two games, they struggled to score. They don't even look like that same team that played Cincinnati that hung 40 on us back then without him. I mean, Mike Williams, he didn't do nothing in our game. He hasn't done anything really like after that. Like this dude had like 3 catches for like 20 yards when they needed him. Like Van Jefferson had more stats than Mike Williams. So I think that if we get into a situation where George Pickens is not the George Pickens that he was, a lot of people forget at one point he was like the third leading receiver in the NFL. That wasn't too long ago, but
my fantasy football team knows that.
He's kind of the engine for that Steelers offense, really for real. Like a lot, like they don't really get a whole bunch of explosive plays, and he's kind of the driver of that. So, it'll be interesting to see once we get down to that side of things. But
I have a hot take for that though. I think they beat the Chiefs.
I think they're expecting Pickens back. I think if they get Pickens back, they can beat the Chiefs for sure.
I think the Chiefs aren't a high octane offense. But I know that they got Hollywood Brown back. Worthy's had he's had a really good first season. He's probably done a little bit better than what I thought. I thought he'd be around 700 yards. He's looked like he's closing in on probably about 900 yards. He had like 7 something right now. Their offense is just not explosive. And I think the Steelers in those there are very few teams where the Chiefs don't have the advantage on the interior. But what Hayward and all those dudes rotating, I don't feel like the Chiefs had the edge up front. And their tackles are bad. TJ Watt and Highsmith, and then the other kid that the other dude that they just brought from the Packers too, gonna be rushes at Pat Mahomes like he hasn't seen. Like to me, I said this early in the season, and I think they've come down to earth a little bit. But the Steelers pass rush is no joke, and I don't think that the Chiefs can block it. I think Pat's gonna have a rough day as far as that. He better scramble, and he better have the referees with him. I think the Steelers are gonna give him problems up front. I really do. I think, of course, the Chiefs can win, but
I also think the Chiefs possibly being without Chris Jones on a short week, that's major. Like you're talking about outside of Pat Mahomes, maybe your best player on your team, and not having him from that standpoint to disrupt and kind of do some things. I think that's major.
I think he is. Pat Mahomes is more accomplished. Yeah. But I mean, the way he's playing, he's not playing to the level of Chris Jones.
Yeah, he's not. I don't know if Jim on your end, if there's some Wi-Fi issues. You kind of been having some T-Pain stuff going on real quick, kind of like the spaces.
How am I looking right now?
You just froze for a second with the bottle in your hand. You just froze for a split second. You back with us now. But yeah, I think this kind of leads into where this offense and this team needs to go going forward. And we kind of saw them come out as the captains. Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, and T. Higgins. I don't think that that's by mistake. I think that's by design. I think that's sending a statement. If this team is going to get to the playoffs, these guys are going to lead them there, whether it's against the Steelers, whether it's against the Broncos. I think it's very clear. I don't have much to say on this because it's always been that for me. Like, this has always been the foundation for me Right after that Super Bowl, bro. I mean, I feel like it was before the Super Bowl, but like the Super Bowl stamped it for me when you had, and I'm not trying to live in the past, but I think it was very evident when Jamar Chase and T. Higgins just went crazy on Jalen Ramsey and that Rams secondary. It was clear to me, like, I don't think I've ever seen anybody be able to do this. I don't think I've ever seen somebody make, Jalen Ramsey look like this. We kind of talked about that because everybody was making fun of Eli Apple. And then I posted the stats of what Jamar Chase and T. Higgins did to Jalen Ramsey. And to me, that's always just been the foundation of this team. That's what they are moving forward. I mean, we saw it this past weekend. T. Higgins, 8 catches. Jamar Chase, what? How many catches Jamar Chase? 6? 6 for like 90 plus. Like, they just are unstoppable. And then you see Joe Burrow with the pass going towards the ground after he was knocked down by his own lineman. I don't know why people are trying to say he was down, but that's the trifecta of what this team is and what they're able to do. 3 the hard way. How do you feel about them coming out, as captains and stuff like that 2 weeks in a row?
I thought it was dope. I think I don't want to make this to the comment section is so fun today. If you guys are on Twitter, please make sure y'all come to YouTube. It's hella jokes. When the Bengals win, we turn up. I was gonna say, what was the question again?
How you feel about Jamar, T, and Joe being captains and stuff?
This is what I was gonna say. This is a question I used to pose. Shout out to Jerry reminding me too of doing this. She's always in the comment section. I used to come to spaces all the time and be like, what's the identity of the Bengals? And I wanted to get a conversation going on, like, to me, why a lot of Bengals fans are off the wide receivers. You could have been downtown Eddie Brown generation. You could have been Peter Ward. You could have been Isaac Curtis. You could have been Ocho Cinco. You could have been AJ Green. You see what I'm saying? It's like, and one thing that we weren't able to do is keep our 2 best wide receivers together. Like whether it was, Pickens and Darnay Scott and all these different combinations that we had. We kept them around for a little bit, but when it was time to pay them and you had Mo Sanu and like Marvin Jones, like, look at it. I just named like 20 wide receivers. Like, it's who the Bengals really are. And a lot of people could say, well, you ain't never won no Super Bowl. As Bengals fans, we know that the front office has had the blueprint to what they were very, very instrumental in moving forward the wide receiver position in the NFL. Let's be very clear on that. With Paul Brown. And the emphasis that we put on the wide receiver position, I think, has only been matched by teams like the Vikings and maybe the Cowboys. And I think that those are staples of who we are. It's easy to say, well, the Bengals ain't never won a Super Bowl, but we know in 2005 what happened to Carson Palmer's leg. We know in 88 what all the different things that happened. We're not going to go into all these different games. And then we know what happened in 2015 when you have a Marvin Jones and an AJ Green and then Andy Dalton gets hurt. It's the tragedy. Somebody said, yeah, and shout out to Cincinnati. She says, rest in peace, Chris Henry. The crazy thing is the story that's untold about Bengals fans is that those things that happen in our history, I'm sure other teams have their moments too, but we have a formula, I think, that's proven that we've won division titles in the last 20 years. We had the same amount as the Ravens. We won the division 6 times. The Steelers in that same time frame has won it 8, Ravens 6. So it's not like we're like far apart. It's just that when they got their moment and the lights cut out on the Ravens or whatever, they won their bowl. And the Bengals got something bad happen to them every single time. And even in the Super Bowl in 2021, the Logan Wilson call, Burrow getting his knee messed up in the game. It's just little, and it's easy to say that this front office, they ain't did that, but they got a lot closer than a lot of other teams. That doesn't mean that I'm giving them a pass. Like, they need to turn up and go all in and do some things. But the formula with the wide receivers, and that what we're about to do on the defensive side of the ball, I just think that it's a staple of who we are. When people talk about us, they talk about, oh, we're going to clamp up Jamar Chase. We're going to clamp T. Higgins. Oh, Joe Burrow. Like, no matter if Trey Hendrickson had 5 sacks, we would come to spaces. We would go to the barbershop, and they talking about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Oh, they're going to be a Commander. Oh, he's going to be a Cowboy. Oh, no, he's going to be a Patriot. So I'm like, why do people want these guys, like, that much? And then seeing them 3 walk out there together, it really is like a teaching moment. I think, like, me and you both got young sons that we're teaching the game of football, and we're talking Ring of Honor stuff when we walk to the stadium. We're talking about all these different things. And I know that there's a guy or girl watching this show right now and saying, well, Joe Burrow doesn't need those weapons, and Joe Burrow doesn't need T. Higgins, and T. Higgins gets hurt. I think it's a bigger conversation based off of the symbolism of what it is to really be a Bengals fan, honestly. And a lot of us, like, I really turned into a crazy diehard with Ocho and Peter Warrick around that era, and I went really crazy. And a lot of it was predicated on wide receivers. And if you have real conversations with even older Bengals fans, a lot of it is off of the wide receivers. And yes, we have great defensive players too, but I really think that there's a formula that their front office just needs to tweak, but they can win a Super Bowl with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. And a guy like Chase Brown makes it very, very hard for defenses just to key in on those two.
Nah, for sure. Chase Brown is doing this thing. Just so you guys know, the show is powered by BETUS. Right now, they are doing a promo YouTube 150. That means if you enter that promo code, you get 150% match on your first deposit. Make sure that you guys do that. You're going to get 125% for every match after that. But make sure that you guys take advantage of that with BETUS. I completely agree with everything that you said. Shifting to the other side of the football, we had a conversation on here a few weeks ago, and that's on my bad because I'm thinking Geno Stones for some reason was only signed for a year, because I think when it was reported, people try to make it seem like they just put like a void year, but it's a legit 2-year deal. I am here to say, after the last couple of weeks that he has had, Geno Stone got to be here to stay, bro. Like, I think, the one thing I will say is, it's a situation where I think he had to just kind of get a feel for this defense. Mike Hilton kind of came out and said that they simplified it. We've got to also remember he was playing in that Baltimore system for X amount of years. Now it seems like he's got a handle on this team and defense now. And dude almost had not one, but almost 2 interceptions yesterday. Like, don't forget that. Like, now I know it was negated because of a penalty, but who knows how that goes if he is able to make, that play there. But he looked like he's
think
back.
About them fighting over the football on that, though.
That was crazy. Him and Pratt fighting over the football was like, man. And those have been the main 2 that people have been going at on social media. So it was kind of ironic that it was those two doing it. But Geno Stone, I believe it's three interceptions in 3 straight games. So, I mean, that's what they brought Geno Stone in here to be. For people that were expecting him to be like this tackling machine, I just don't know where that came from. But he also had, if I'm not mistaken, a really good rush of the passer as well. He's been improving as a blitzer as well. So to see him come out here now and have 4 interceptions on the season, if I'm not mistaken, he had like, 5 or 6 for the Ravens?
Yeah.
So that's what you pay Geno Stone to do, and he's doing it.
He had a drop one. I thought it was like early in the season. It was like it might have been a Pats game. It might very early in the season. And I was like, oh well, like he'll get that straight. I remember I can't think of what game. Somebody remind me what game that it was early in the season. He had one in the back of the end zone. It might have been like between weeks 1 and 3. Can I say this though? In a perfect world, I would still go sign another safety. And his deal makes it so that they have outs for it, but I would keep it on. But I know how the Bengals operate. They're only, but the reason why I would go pay another safety is because you got Jordan Battle still on a rookie deal for another, season or 2. Or 2 seasons, right? Yeah, 2 seasons. So that's I've been looking at free agency a lot. So Mufanga is a guy I really like from the 49ers. And I wish that they would bring another safety in, not one from the draft, like a veteran safety, just in case somebody goes down like next year or anything, or you have Geno Stone moments and then he has to be like the third safety. He's not paid like a crazy amount of money, and Battle isn't either. I just know that the Bengals don't pay like that, or they probably won't allocate that much money to the safety position. I was watching ESPN re-release their top 25 free agents. T. Higgins is number 1. But number 25 was Mufanga. So I don't know how cheap his price would be, but I would love for them to give us another insurance policy on it, because I feel like that's the same mistake that we made with Rankins. Is like, bring a guy in and yeah, we got this. And then what if that guy doesn't pan out? What if Geno Stone, like what's the backup plan?
What if Geno Stones, hear me out. I'm gonna call him Geno Stones because he's got some stones right now. But if he was able to get another interception, and he's got 5 interceptions, one of them being returned for a touchdown, are you walking away from that? Like
No. So we're in agreement. I was big on the show of saying I think that they should just release Geno Stone because he only had like a $2 million dead cap if they released him. Yeah. I think now his contract looks very affordable, and I would just keep him moving forward. But I would I want to add another guy just in case he has a moment like this next year or whatever. That's my only knock.
Does that make not that necessarily that free agency, this class wasn't a bust, but now that you kind of got some production out of Gesicki, right? You got some production out of Geno Stone. Does that change it at all, or is it still like this was a complete trash free agency?
The free agency was trash. But I will say the draft, though, however, was actually it's looking pretty damn good. Like, I know we took a lot of swings, at defenses or whatever, but guys like Kris Jenkins, McKinnley Jackson are looking like pretty damn good picks. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not mad at the draft. Cedric Johnson had a pretty good game this past week.
Cedric Johnson, bro, yeah, said was about the.
I mean, bro, come on, like we saw Tanner McLaughlin for the first time, but I mean, look how late you took him in the draft. Like, are we really judging the draft off that? And then if you combine that with the draft from before, you got a 5th round Chase Brown, you got a 6th round Yoshabas. Like, the drafts that they're starting to pick up some momentum by just playing these guys. That like, to me, that's what I'm only gonna say their name one time. The Chiefs, in order to do this thing, they've given everybody a piece of the formula. Now, our version of Chris Jones will come in the form of T. Higgins or Jamar Chase in the formula of money. But what they did is take those draft picks and then they played them really, really early, especially on defense. But the thing that they keep on leaning on is, we traded away Tyreek Hill. Yeah, you idiots. You had Kelsey, and you had Chris Jones, and you had Creed Humphrey, and you know what I'm saying? You had all these other dudes, so you knew you couldn't pay all of them. The Bengals don't have that problem, so you don't have to trade away T. Higgins was the argument I always had. And I just feel as though, like, you got to make sure that you play the young guys early, and you got to see what you got and get them battle tested. So by the time that you get to 16, 17, look at Geno Stone did an interview after the show or whatever. I mean, after the game. Geno Stone did an interview, and I think it was Dave Lapham asked him, "How are you feeling comfortable?" He was like, "Man, I'm feeling comfortable as hell now." So, like, just him getting all those reps and getting all those plays in, and then look at Jordan Battle. Like, you got to play, even if
Jordan Battle was playing crazy in this one, bro.
It was nuts.
He been on the heater.
Him and Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton is a tough decision for me. Mike Hilton's a tough one.
It's not tough for me. I'm bringing a Mike Hilton back. Like, you can't.
Just the blitz.
Not just the blitz. Like, I think he can blitz. He's also, I think, pretty solid in other ways that you can use him. Sometimes he's a liability in coverage for sure. I think him being the leader of the defense is something when you talk about having a voice in the locker room after losing some of the guys that you have. I feel like he's a good presence with that. I think he has shown also from interviews, like, the reason that he's able to jump the snap and all of that is because he's kind of seeing things on film. So not only is he helping himself with those things that he's seeing on film, he's likely going to CTB and some of those other guys and seeing and breaking down what he sees on film. So for me, it's an easy decision, but it also depends on how much money he wants, right? Especially in the offseason where you have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase trying to get paid. So that could be a situation where, like you're saying, it's not easy to do. But to me, obviously, I'm keeping T. Higgins no matter what. I've kind of already said that. If it has to come down to it, that Mike has to leave because of that, then you have to do what you got to do. But
it shouldn't come down to that.
It shouldn't come down to that.
That's the part of it's nasty being a Bengals fan. It shouldn't. Any other organization.
I'm gonna say this right now, man, and Bengals Facebook is gonna hate me. I'm probably gonna see some comments in this, after this show. I would cut Sam Hubbard and get that money to Mike Hilton, bro. Like,
who the hell would be if you are mad at cutting Hubbard, Kappa, Zach Moss, or Rankins? You don't know about let me stop. I'm not gonna finish this sentence and say you don't know.
Don't do that.
Don't do that because
don't do that. Don't
you know how
do
they're
it.
gonna do us online. They're gonna be like, "Can you believe that Jim and Ace are telling people about ball?"
They're sitting on their high horses and they're calling us names. Yeah, don't do that.
Podcasters, we talk trash about people all day, and we don't do a damn thing. We're not accredited. We ain't shit, but we talk trash about people all day. But we got the right to trash anybody. Can you believe Ace and Zim are saying that people don't know ball? Good heavens. Where did they find these two?
Cut Sam Hubbard for that Mike Hilton. But hey, this isn't a Cut Sam Hubbard show. Let's talk about
Cut Sam Hubbard. We appreciate you, my boy. Maybe you get a ring on. I don't know. Appreciate you, Sammy boy. But we got to go after. We got to go after some players, and we got to sign some guys. BJ Hill and all them. I appreciate you too, my boy. Like, bro, I could go get $40-50 million just off of those guys that we said that aren't playing or not making an impact. Nobody should have a problem with that at all, unless you just got like 4 different colors of Sam Hubbard jersey and you just don't want to.
You never know, bro. Bengals Facebook is a crazy place. The overall coaching outlook now. Lou's been cooking. I think Zach has been cooking. Sometimes Zach has had the 4th and 3, bro. I'm just Zach. Like,
whoa. I'm so glad you brought that up.
4th and 3, man. Your offense is cooking. Joe Burrow's on a heater. The Browns cannot stop you. And you're like, yeah, let me throw K York. Like, bro. Outside of some of these moments, now sometimes it actually works out in their favor because kind of talked about on that forced fumble, they called timeout. At first, I was like, bro, what are they doing? We're burning a timeout in this situation. Seemed like it could have been a waste. It worked out. In the other situation, 4th and 3, Zach, you got to trust your guys to come through. You can't do that in a Denver game. You can't do that in a Denver game because they don't have DTR. They don't have someone that can't score. He's got to be more aggressive and he's got to make better decisions. And I feel like a broken record in saying that. But with Zach, it's always been situational football. It's not necessarily been the offense. I'm not a huge fan of the scheme, and I feel like a lot of the times guys have to make their own plays. But to me, still, they're able to score 30. They're able to do these things. To me, my issues with Zach are just the situational awareness and the situational decision-making that goes into, I scored 30, but if I take this field goal and I miss it, I'm giving the ball back to Lamar Jackson for him to get it to Justin Tucker to end my situation. So for me, it's always been about situational football. The coaching outlook now, I think that now that they're playing better guys, I think that's better. It's still a little murky for me. I think right now, though, if I'm being real, I think it's kind of shifting to the positive side, but it really depends on what they do these last 2 weeks. What about you, bro?
I'm with you, man. Before we get too far ahead, I want to make sure, like all the super chats, we don't wait to the end of the show. I want to make sure I got this. This is KP from KC. He said Bengals should be built like Manning's Colts team. Do you
I've
agree with
said
that?
that before, bro. I've said that. Everything on offense, you get like 2 elite players on defense, maybe 3. They had Bob Sanders. They got him in the draft. They had Mathis, who was an edge rusher, and they had Freeney, that was an edge rusher. A lot of the guys on the defensive side, outside of those guys, shuffled around, and they put all of their money on offensive line and weapons. Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison, Dallas Clark, Marcus Pollard, Edgerrin
Even
James, Joseph Adai. Like, that's
even
all
the
they
tight
did,
end
bro.
they had, it was another blocking tight end that kind of reminds me of Sample. His name was like Utek or something like that. They had other tight ends that could block that were very similar. That's a very good comment that KP brought up. Another one who I want to emulate with Chase Brown emerging the way that he is. How about the Kurt Warner Rams?
Yeah, I think that works as well. Actually, bro, I think Ben Utek, he was on the call. He was we ended up getting Utek, didn't we, for like a year or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ben Utek, yeah.
Bro,
like you said, the Rams 2, greatest show on turf. I know you always have talked about Oz Hakeem and those guys. Torrey Holt.
Burton is like Oz Hakeem, bro.
Yeah.
So Ricky Prohl on there was their 4th, 5th wide receiver. He's a lot, I'm not even going to say he's like Yoshi, but he's the veteran guy. So maybe in the offseason, they bring in like a guy that is a little bit more trusted as a possession wide receiver. But
don't you feel like Yoshi's earned wide receiver 3 now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yoshi, hey, shout out to Yoshi. I know he wouldn't mind me saying, after the game, I just told him, I said, bro, you put together a string of, after the mistake in the Chiefs game, and he had another game where he had like 1 drop 2. I forgot what game that was. He's put together like 5 games of like, actually probably about 7 games. Dependable, knows every single route, is always there where they need him. You can nitpick it, whatever. I think he's still young and raw. Where let's get him. I want to hook him up with TJ Houshmandzadeh this all season and get his footwork and all this different stuff together. And I think that his foot speed and all the quickness off the line of scrimmage, I think if he corrects some of that, I think he'll be one of the most dangerous wide receiver 3s in football. And that, with the emergence of Chase Brown, if the Bengals added another tight end, I'm not the biggest Gesicki, let's resign guy. We'll get into that later. But if they could get a tight end that's in the Eric All mode that can block and receive passes, then I think that Yoshi will give you like a. He's got 6 touchdowns. Like he's a guy, bro. I really love the way that he's matured throughout this season. I think he's a really bright, dependable wide receiver, and he's where Joe Burrow wants him to be. I think Burton could be the Oz Hakeem speed demon, run a slot fade, go crazy, greatest show on turf at any given moment. And can you imagine a safety having given attention to that? And you got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Yoshi, and Chase Brown. We'll be talking about the number 1. I already feel like we're the number 3 offense in football. Only 2 offenses maybe better, maybe the Bills and the Lions right now. And so I think if you do that, the Bengals have the pieces to be a number 1 offense in football.
For sure. So, didn't get your take about the coaching though.
About the coaching on
on
a stupid 4th and 3.
On the 4th and 3, and just in general, like, how do you feel about
Bro, he killed me on a 4th and 3. I thought about you immediately because you were told on weeks when it was 4th and 8, you was like, dog, they should go for it. So I was like, I know A's turned right now. I was pissed. And then the next drive, he comes back and, is it the same drive? It was a 2nd down, and they threw it after we just had a successful run on 1st. I was begging this dude for almost 2 quarters. I said, bro, I can't get back-to-back runs at no point in this game. I don't know if they ran back-to-back runs until like maybe the 4th quarter, bro. Like they never ran back-to-back runs. Chase Brown only had, 14 carries, bro? It was nuts. I was like, watching the game, I'm doing my live. I'm like, bro, look at the run game. Like, look what he's doing. Look at the guard pulling. I was like, oh, this is a good run game. And then he just started throwing the football. And the third quarter was nasty, too. The third quarter was disgusting. The Bengals in the second half of that football game going into the fourth quarter, y'all know they only had 20 yards of offense. It was disgusting play calling. Everything about it was just bad. And I thought it was bailing the Browns out when Chase Brown was killing. Chase Brown should have walked out of that stadium with 140 rushing. Like, no way he goes out of there running that well and only has 90 yards. They had nothing they could do to stop him. He was unstoppable. He looked like a top 3 running back when he was out there on. I don't know if it was because the Browns sucked and Chase Brown just now getting into the whatever, but bro was on fire and he was not feeling it. Bro, he never ran a back-to-back run play. If somebody could show me a back-to-back run play, I'll give you $1, bro. That's all I got. But aside from that, Jesus, bro, like that's the only. It just kills me. Like you got to fill that out. Some games are gonna be some games in the AFC North where it's time to run the football, and your quarterback has got a backup tackle out there. I'm not trying to drop him back. He only dropped back 30 times. I wouldn't have had Joe Burrow dropping back more than 25 in a game where you're beating the hell out of the opponent like that. What are we dropping back that many times? I know we want the record and stuff. But what does it all mean? I learned a lot when Burrow hurt his wrist. I'm like, if Joe ain't there, I'm nothing. So I can't take that for granted. I didn't appreciate that. And him abandoning the run was disgusting.
Do you think Chase Brown in that game looked better than Mixon ever has?
It's so different. It's so different of a style.
Mm-hmm.
Stylistically, it's so different, but it's so crazy because I think
it's more James Brooks, Giovanni Bernard, than it is Mixon is more kind of a power runner with
he's more
speed.
Dylan.
Yeah, it's more
He's more Benson. He's more Dylan. He's a bigger back. And I think that Mixon's a better receiver. He's a better fluid receiver of the football. Chase Brown has some great catches. Also, this is what's so crazy about this. Chase Brown's pass blocking grades have been phenomenal in the last 3-4 games. So you mean to tell me we couldn't have had Joe Mixon on first down, get a run or two, walk out the game with 6 to 8 carries, Chase Brown being the dominant runner, you transition into that. Chase Brown get 14, 16 carries, Mixon get 6, Mixon get 2 reception, but Chase Brown's your third down back. I don't know why the Mixon cutters made it a Chase Brown versus Mixon thing.
I think it could be very similar. My bad. Go ahead.
I was just going to say Zach Moss was the Mixon replacement. Chase Brown and Mixon could have complemented each other. So your question, I appreciate the question, but I thought that they would that it's so hard to compare them because it's too different of a style. Chase Brown gets the ball and he's shot out of a cannon. Mixon is I don't know if you saw the Texas game. He sets up his blocks when guys are going into the backfield. He has that little pause, and then he could bounce to the outside a lot. He leaks out for catches. He's everything. He's everything that you will want from a tough yardage running back. Chase Brown is not that. So they're I'm not trying to make Mixon seem like he's a fullback, but they're not the same. They're not even the style of a same runner, bro.
Yeah, they're not the same.
Chase Brown is phenomenal.
Yeah, they're not the same style of runner at all. I think, like you said, I think if the Bengals were to have them, they would kind of have a similar 1-2 punch for what the Lions had before Montgomery got hurt. I think, like you said, man, it would be completely different from that kind of standpoint. I think both guys are having great seasons. I think both guys were great for the Bengals. Interesting to see who they choose to bring in with Chase Brown because I'm not sure if he can handle the main role, and I don't think you want him to get beat down or anything like that in this kind of situation. We didn't even see Khalil Herbert yesterday at all.
This is what Chase Brown has proven. He is a lead back. I think he's too good. I think he's too fast. I think he's too special of a running back. He should be the lead back. The plan that I would have did would have been it would have been a gradual transition from week 5 week 6 or whatever, you would have seen the transition of Mixon being a lead back to Chase Brown. And that's what really good teams do is transition, take more talent, a more talented running back. Remember, the Bengals saved the money on Mixon. It did nothing with it. They didn't sign anybody. They cut $2 million and they got nothing for Zach Moss. And then they had to give up a 7th round pick. So like when people are posting all this Chase Brown stuff, like, haha, we got you, Mixon. You're only saying that because you thought Mixon was done. Mixon has got 1,000 yards rushing as well. Like they're equally having good seasons. And Mixon missed games. Chase Brown started late. Like they're equally having really good seasons. But the problem that I think everybody is not understanding is that there are instances like, remember at the end of the Ravens game where we ran 3 straight runs and got nothing? You don't think that's a situation where Mixon would thrive in? How do we know? Because we saw it the year before. Remember he was betting the backfield from the dude from the Vikings, the dude Ivan Pace, trucked him, gets us the touchdown in those gotta have it moments, and that's what he's doing there in the Texans. And I think Chase Brown, you don't want him doing that. It's not that he can't do it. You don't want him doing that. And I think that Mixon is so seasoned that he kind of diagnoses blocks a little bit better. But that doesn't mean that Chase Brown, it's just fire and ice, bro. That would have been a beautiful. And people that say that Mixon, you think Mixon helps this team win games? I think the Bengals might have one more win with Mixon on the team. I really do. I think that Mixon and Chase Brown, the Bengals will have probably one more win. Because I will look at the game where Chase Brown fumbled when we were out 21-7. You probably would have handed the ball to Mixon. I looked at the game at the end of the one where we ran the 3 straight runs. You probably get 5-6 yards and maybe give yourself a better kick. You might get a first down with Mixon, because that's what he literally does. There are instances where I feel like Mixon would have helped the team out and the leadership portion. I do. So when people say that online, they be like, I can't believe you think that Mixon will help. I do. I think that he will win one more game. And what does that mean for your season? You probably wouldn't be on the outside looking at the playoffs, and we'd be going into the playoffs saying Chase Brown is a crazy weapon, and we got veteran leadership from Mixon when early in the season it was rough. So them trying to victory lap that stuff is like really weird for me, because saying a guy that's going to go on your ring of honor and trying to continuously try to figure out ways to trash him is like weird to me. Just like I think Sam Hubbard, I think that he's done right now. I could be proven wrong. I don't think so. But I think that doesn't take away from what Sam Hubbard does. So every single week, I'm not going to go back and be like, see, I told you Sam Hubbard was like, he's helped the Bengals out. I don't know if people are understanding that concept. When you're a Bengal, for me, you're a Bengal, and that's respect for me. Like, it's family to me. Like, so them trashing him just to make a Twitter point is never really jive with me.
For sure. Before we get up out of here, let's talk to our good friends at Midwest Best Barbecue.
G-Funk wings and them CTVs. Midwest Best is the place to be for queuing wings. Midwest Best is the place to be for queuing wings. It's the AC to the Zim, M to the B's. Uno wings, G-Funk wings and them CTVs. Midwest Best is the place to be for queuing wings. Midwest Best is the place to be for queuing wings. Say what up with Jordan Battle. We be going to battle. Intercepting balls like CTV did on Seattle. Putting 6 up on AZ. Juice game amazing. Make sure you come get these wings, cause Zimby stay blazing. And T-Game be smooth as ice. Jamal making DBs fold. TV got big levels, and now you already know. Hits so pretty for Uno wings. Cam got the new wings. We call them CTBs. Only at MBs. H to the Zim. M to the B's.
Shout out Midwest Best Barbecue 669 Justice Court in Loveland, Ohio. Make sure you stop in and let them know Ace and Zim sent you. All sorts of wings, all sorts of barbecue. They got brisket, they got pulled pork, whatever you guys are looking for, pulled chicken, they got it all. Make sure you stop in and get you some of that. Before we get up out of here, Zim, was there anything that you wanted to say?
Big game Saturday, but nothing bigger than the game on Wednesday with the family. Make sure y'all tell everyone that you love them. Make sure you tell them happy holidays. Make sure you stay stuck together like 915 would do. Then walking out on the field, that's how you should be walking out there with your fam. Make sure you tell people that you hadn't talked to in a long time. Make sure you check on them. You know, everything ain't perfect. You know, you can't get on the phone and talk to your uncle every day. You can't talk to your aunt every day. But this is your chance to reach out to your folks, tell them what's up, tell them Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, tell somebody you love them. I'm going to tell everybody that watches our show that been rocking with us for damn near a decade that I love you. I love you. All right, I'm not going to sing the whole song. But Merry Christmas, though. I appreciate y'all, man.
Yes, sir.